You're doing all the relationship things, but there is not a commitment. If that back and forth, push, pull, the little breadcrumbs that you get, those can be really addictive. But if you find that you're in your singleness and you are not enjoying it, you're not enjoying spending time with yourself, all you see is, I want a relationship, that's how you know you're probably not in a place to be dating anyway.
Welcome back to a new episode of Let's Talk Relationships. If you've ever found yourself in a situationship and you're just wondering, where is this going? Well, this episode is for you. Today I'm joined by Dr. Ibbie. She is a licensed psychologist, and we're going to unpack what a situationship is and why do they happen. We're also going to look at what are the mindset shifts that we have to make to break the cycle. Plus, we're going to get into why we ignore red flags and why do we hope that people will change. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Let's Talk Relationships, everybody. I've got Dr. Ibbie here with me all the way from Atlanta, Georgia.
Woo-woo.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I know. I am so excited to have this conversation because we're going to chat today about situationships, which, I mean, we've heard the word thrown around. I'm sure we've been in some. We've seen friends be in some. And I just want to draw attention to this topic and have this conversation because I feel like people are trapped in these things in one way or another, maybe not even knowing why they can't seem to get out or why they can't seem to, stand up for themselves or what they want or whatnot. So I just feel really led to have this conversation. And I think it'll be really good today. But starting off, I'd love to hear more about you. And, I know you are a psychologist, and so I'd love to hear about more about your story.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm a licensed therapist. I'm a dating coach, social psychologist. I started out, I was years ago working at a bar, and, a lot of the patrons would come in. They're talking about their relationships, and a lot of my coworkers as well. A lot of us were going through some of the same stuff, similar stories. It was crazy and toxic up in there. So, yeah, I was like, okay, has to be a reason we're all involved in a similar situation. Why do we all keep playing the same patterns over again? What the heck is going wrong? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to school and learn about more of this and figure it out. So that's how I started my journey.
I love that. It's so funny. I feel like very similar into why I got into this too. It was like, you just see these patterns and then everyone's talking about it and like, how are we all in the same boat? Like right? You're like, what are we missing? Like what, and same with dating. I feel that way. I'm like, what are we missing in dating and why do we seem to just not have it down?
Right. And nobody seems to be on the same page. What's going on? But people say they want the same thing. Yeah. They don't act like it. It's a lot going on.
There's so much incongruency with what we say, what we want, and all of that. And you specialize, you kind of in attachment theory, correct?
Yeah. I specialize in attachment theory. I used to mainly work with women who cycle through situationships and toxic relationships. Now I'm more broad attachment theory and added to that and manipulation tactics that people have been through, emotional abuse, things like that.
Yeah. And I think those things are so crazy because I feel like they keep people stuck, right, in relationships and the wrong relationships. And we don't even know that why they're happening per se, know. But let's talk about the dating world because the dating world is, how would you describe today's dating world? Because we're in different areas, right? So sometimes people say, oh, that's such an LA thing, but I do feel like there's some similarities across the board when we talk about the dating world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm I want to be positive here, but let's be
real. We don't, look, it's trash. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. And I hear that so many times. That's a recurring theme is that dating is trash. Dating in Atlanta is trash. Dating in LA is trash. Dating in Houston's trash. Big cities trash. I've heard so much of that. I see some success for sure, but a majority of people are like, oh my gosh, it's trash. It's not good. We're not finding people that want the same things as us. And I've heard a lot of that recurring theme.
But what is and then I ask everybody this because I love getting the perspective, but what is at the core of it? Because I hear that a lot here too. We're all obviously from a woman's perspective, we're all the good guys. We're all the guys that want the same things as me. And, and I hear that a lot. And it's like, are there incongruencies between what we expect and what we're finding? Do we find the right guys, but then our expectations of them are just, totally off? So I'm just curious, what do you see? Like, what is the disconnect that makes it trash?
Yeah, I would say a lot of people are in self-preservation mode. So they want something, but then they like stick their toe in it and they're not fully going in and they think they want something, but then they pull back. Or, when the people are like, oh, they're no good guys. I feel like guys, they probably do want something. They like companionship, whatever else. But then when it comes to, oh, now they have to be vulnerable. Now they have to shed a certain layer that they don't want to shed. That's when you can get into some of these crazy situations, women as well, but I know I work with women. So I hear a lot of they're no good guys.
Yeah.
And I would say a lot of people are trying to preserve themselves and fear getting hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where we build our walls. We build these walls that are there to protect us. But in reality, they're actually preventing us from connecting in these relationships. And it's like, I always look at it, I'm like, I feel like we're all just a bunch of little kids, that didn't fully grow into adulthood, and we have all these wounds and all these protection mechanisms, and then we're trying to have adult relationships in these with these child emotions and hearts that have not healed, and we're running around rampant, and we have all these expectations that some are just unrealistic, that our partner is going to fulfill everything for our lives, right? Are what we expect out of partnership nowadays, though, it is I think is part of the problem. I think we expect our partner to be everything to us,
Right.
And yeah, it's just that's how I picture all these little 6-year-olds like trying to date and have relationships.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Everyone's just walking around here in their inner child, and that's how they're showing up in relationships. And that's why they're so triggered easily, because they're taken back to childhood. Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't want to face that. We don't want to deal with. And I think a lot of the time, I think so much of it is people don't even know what they don't know. So they don't get curious. Why do I react this way? Why am I feeling this way? Like, I think they lose the curiosity or they don't have the curiosity of why they're feeling a certain way. And I think I don't know. I think that's like part of it.
Or they're just like, that's just how I am.
Yeah.
That's how I've always been. I'm like, there's something you can do about that.
Yeah, right? You're like, we could work on this, But I don't think people don't want to look internally. And I think we also live in a society that we're just moving so quickly. We're so fast. We're always on the go. It's like if you don't actually slow down, you don't have time for the introspection. You're just moving on to the next relationship. You're just on to the next.
Right.
And I feel like it's like the speed is almost a double-edged sword. It's like, yeah, we move on quicker, but we don't actually learn anything from the previous relationship, or why was I stuck in something for so long, or, so it's just, it's just a hot mess out there.
Yeah, and then failing to realize that people are your mirror. So everything you're pointing out in that other person, like, oh, I don't like when they did this, this, and this. Well, look within. You probably did that yesterday. And you need to check in with yourself that there's something there that's mirroring that other person. And there's a reason you are attracted to somebody like that. Check yourself.
100%. I actually love to go into that. Like, I find attraction interesting, and I wonder, how do you define attraction? Because sometimes I feel like the things that we're attracted to aren't necessarily healthy.
Yeah.
So why are we drawn to that?
Yeah. I would say that goes back to childhood. Like, we are attracted to familiarity, whether it's safe, whether it's healthy, whether it's not. So it's like, if that's what you grew up in, if you grew up in an environment where people weren't regulating their emotions, people didn't know how to ask for what they wanted, what they needed. Maybe your parents were throwing tantrums when they didn't get what they want, little adult tantrums. You are attracted to that type of behavior in other people because it's familiar. And someone might be manipulative and throwing a tantrum when you don't give them what they want. And then you feel like you have to give in to them because you had to do that with your parents, your caregivers. And that was the only way you could be safe as a child. And now in adulthood, you're like, oh my gosh, let me give in, because it takes you right back, like you said, to your inner child.
Dang.
So familiarity is attractive.
It sure is. I've looked back at some of the people I've dated and I'm like, oh, like some of them have similar traits. And you know what's something I was thinking about recently too? I always go for the guy that's like like if banter is good, I'm like, I'm in. It's like my love language. And I started
Yeah.
realizing, I'm like, I actually think banter is a little bit of a, I think it's a trauma response in some ways, because I think it's actually a shield of not being vulnerable. Like it's a way for you not to be vulnerable. And I'm like, why am I attracted to guys that like, that we are, that we banter really well with and joke around and which isn't inherently a bad thing. But I started to find
Yeah.
that like guys that are like that tend to have similar traits because they're all also emotionally unavailable. And I didn't put the two and two together until recently. And I was like, mind blown.
Yeah, like if they lead with their charm,
Mm-hmm.
like if that's all they have to offer, that's the main thing they have to offer is they're leading with their charm and they're really flirtatious
Mm-hmm.
and they do the banter. My friend is like, if they're charming, run.
Right.
And I'm like, not
You're like,
necessarily,
wait.
but you have to see if there's anything else in addition to the charm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's like stuff like that. It's like, I think we have to get curious about what is it that I'm actually going after? Is it like, yeah, is it a familiar spirit, or is it, like what is actual attraction? So I think that that's so fascinating, because that was one thing I was like, I don't know. I was like, this might be a problem.
Yeah, and well, yeah, depending on what else, if you're initially attracted because of the charm, now it's like, okay, let's see
Yeah.
if they meet the other things
Yes.
that I like too. Yeah.
If it goes on beyond that. But yeah, I'm curious, like now getting into the topic of situationships, because I feel like this is really rampant in our
Mhm.
dating world out there.
Yeah.
It's almost like you get to have all the cake, but you don't have to make any commitment at all to anything.
Hmm.
And this goes back to when I look at like we're all just little kids running around,
Yeah.
First of all, for those who don't even know, like how do we define a situationship?
It is something that's like a semblance of a relationship. You're doing all the relationship things, but there is not a commitment officially. There's not a label. It's undefined, but you are still engaging in relationship style activities.
Yeah, man. And why do we stay in these? How do we even get ourselves in the mess to begin with?
Yeah. Well, first, getting into it, I think people can fall easily into a situationship when they're not clear about what they want from the jump, or they dismiss what they want. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm finally chosen. Great. Let's do this. Let's go with the flow. I think go with the flow is a trap every
Oh,
time.
yes, it is.
Because that's how you start out. We're going with the flow. We vibe. We like each other, but we haven't had intentional conversations along the way. We're just kind of going until we fall into obsession. And now we're stuck because that back and forth, push, pull, the little breadcrumbs that you get, those can be really addictive. And you hold on to this hope that, okay, I mean, one day we'll get there. One day we'll be committed. And you keep holding on to this hope and you keep seeing that nothing's changing. But because you are so stuck, you're like, let me give it another try. Let me try and see if it changes. It doesn't change.
Look,
There's no, it doesn't change. Yeah.
when someone says, we're just vibing, run.
Uh-huh.
If you even use the word vibe, I'm like, I'm out. Like,
Especially when you, the other person, know you want something more. If
yes.
someone says, oh, let's go with the flow, and you
Yeah.
want something more, don't lie to yourself. Get out of there.
100%. I'm like, a vibe? We're going with a vibe? No, I need like commitment. I'm looking for someone who's actually intentional,
Mm-hmm.
not a vibe. But I feel like that's so like, I don't know. I feel like it's so rampant. Everyone just kind of wants to go, especially. I mean, and I'm talking from LA perspective. I feel like it's even more rampant here because it's such a, I feel like it's such a transactional city. People aren't from here. They move here for something and they move away. So there's this already like lack of commitment in general in our society and just in this city.
Okay.
People
Mhm.
come in to become something, to either get into acting or directing, get in the industry or build a business, or, they're coming here for something. So it almost feels a little consumeristic in this area. And so
Okay.
that's what I find. I find like it's even that like non-committal is even worse. And we see it in friendships too. It's not only in relationships. I see this in friendships. People are very non-committed in community and in friendship. So it's like even more rampant in situationships because people just don't want to commit. And I think, at some point that's fine. But I think the trap is no one is communicating in these
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
situationships. Like no one is actually having the conversation about what is it that I want,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
Or they're afraid to. Some
yeah,
people are like, they don't want to lose that person.
yeah,
So any piece of them I can get, I'm going to stick around.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
so sad. And why do we do that? Like, why, what within us holds on to things that we just know is not right?
Yeah, I
Like,
think there's that fear, like an underlying fear of, I think for a lot of people who end up in situationships, there is a fear of abandonment there.
mm-hmm.
So it's like, if I say what I want for real, if I ask where this is going, set the intention, they might leave. They might not want to be with me anymore. So let me just accept what I can so I can at least have this person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people lie to themselves, like, this is the most amazing person they've ever
Yeah.
met. Like, oh, I can't find somebody like this ever again. No one's gonna connect with me on the same level. And it's like, yeah, there are other people out here.
Yeah.
You've just convinced yourself that that is the one for some reason.
Yeah, I think we have a scarcity mindset. I think you have so many bad experiences in dating, and then someone gives you some resemblance of a commitment, right? It's not a real
Mm-hmm.
commitment, but some, and you latch on and you think, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's not going to get better than this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it makes me sad because I'm like, so much of that comes from a lack of your own self-confidence and a lack
Yeah.
of identity. I think
Mm-hmm.
when we don't know who we are and we don't know what value we bring and what we like, what our value is intrinsically, we get stuck in these because we think, oh, it can't get better than this, or I'm not going to find someone like this, or I'm okay with bare minimum. I'm okay with just a little bit of attention,
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's sad. It's like we have needs that aren't being met, and we're trying to meet them through something that is, it's transactional. It's not even real,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you
And I
know?
think a lot of it starts off with that charm that you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned and the banter. I think a lot of situationships start off with love bombing, and it
Yes.
goes in really heavy, really exciting. And you're thinking, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
I've never met someone like this before. They really like me. Oh my gosh. And failing to realize it might just be love bombing. They might just be coming on really strong in the beginning just to take it all away later. And I think a lot of them start off very intense
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and exciting.
it's intoxicating.
Mm-hmm.
But even with love bombing, I feel like people, like, it's intoxicating. It's like the dopamine hits and everything that's going on internally. Like, yeah, you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And I feel like if you're starting to say that, this is what I've realized. It's like if you're starting to feel like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever experienced, or this is too good. If you utter the words, it is too good to be true, run.
Especially early on.
Yeah,
Especially early on.
especially I died because you posted this Instagram video. What was that guy? I think I sent it to you, and he was like,
Yes.
"Oh,
And
baby, I want to marry you," or I want, and you're like, "And I'm a block. I'm gonna play the block."
blocked.
Yeah,
I see a future with you. Blocked really
block.
early on. Oh, you're the best thing I've ever had. Blocked. Oh, I can't imagine. Well, I've never felt this way before. And it's like day 2.
Yeah,
Block.
yes, 100%. Like,
Yeah.
look, and I recently fell for this. I was actually shocked because I'm like, I know better. And even in the first 2 weeks, I was like, wow, this is, and I uttered those words. I said, this feels too good to be true. And as those words came out of my mouth, I was like, it's because he's love bombing. How could you fall for this?
And it's so easy.
It's so easy. And especially when they're like, yeah, they're charming. And, again, this is when the banter thing got me. I was like, am I falling for this banter thing? And is this banter thing a trap? Because I feel like, but no, it's crazy how it's like you have to be a little bit more alert in that. And obviously, once it settled, I was like, wait. This is too good to be true, because it's not true, because you actually don't even know me,
That's the part right there, is that they're coming on strong and saying, oh, they see a future with you and they want you to have their babies and they want to get married to you someday. And it's super early on. You have to ask yourself, what do they know about me that would warrant this kind of response?
Yes.
Because if it's not making sense, they barely know you and they're saying you're basically the love of their life. Based on what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's like the test, right? If you're starting to hear these words, be like, have we had deep enough conversations? Have we spent enough
Hmm.
time together for someone to feel this way toward me, or for someone, it's like you kind of have to put some of these things to the test. And I'm not saying like, right,
Hmm.
don't be cynical and every person that says anything nice to you be like, yeah, like, no,
Right.
right? Like, it's just kind of have a little bit of critical thinking in those moments,
Hmm.
Because
Find the balance.
yep. Because I felt
Hmm.
like once, because I feel like in that situation I was talking about, I wasn't reciprocating. So I was like, well, I don't really feel that way toward you because it started
I
to
don't know
feel
you.
like I don't really know you yet. Like, you seem great. Sure. Like, I'm enjoying getting to know you, but like,
Hmm.
I don't know you enough to be like, this is my husband or something crazy like that.
Right.
Right. And so when you start hearing it from the other person, like, oh my God, I've never felt this way, and da 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 da, it's like, what are you even feeling?
Hmm.
It could just be those intoxicating feelings, those like
Yeah.
euphoric, like, and not really based on much.
Yeah, not based on much at all. And that's how you can gauge. Sometimes you got to check your ego because it feels good.
Feels
I'm not going to
great. I
lie.
mean, let's
Love
be
bomb.
real. Like, I'm like,
Love bomb
I'm
feels
amazing.
good.
Thank you. Finally. And then the worst is like when you've dated and you're like, finally, someone out there notices, like, I'm a mate,
Yeah, and it feels good. You just have to check your ego. Like, wait a
100%.
minute. Is this warranted? Is this based on something I've shown this person?
Yeah.
If not, you got to be honest with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like when I think about like giving dating advice and all that, at the end of the day, I'm always like, the best dating advice in the situation or getting through a situation is having self-worth and knowing who you are and being grounded. Because yeah, maybe
Yes.
you get a little bit carried away, like, I did. It didn't take me long to get from like, this is starting to sound a little too much, to, oh wait, get it together, and you know who you are. You know this person doesn't really know you, and
Yeah.
you can see these things for what they really are when you're grounded in
Hmm.
yourself. When you're not and you don't know who you are, you're like the little, like, you'll just be blown left and right with any sort of breeze. A breeze will hit you. Like, you can't even, it doesn't have to even be a storm. It'll be just one little thing. And yeah, I just feel like it's like, I just see so many people who they may seem secure on the outside, right? You see their
Hmm.
Instagrams, their photos. They look like the most secure person. But at the end of the day, I'm like, they're actually just super insecure. And they tend to be the ones who get stuck in these sort of situations
Yeah.
because they are scared to stand up for who they are, and they're scared to stand up for themselves.
And that's coming from like a scarcity mindset and a desperation mindset. Like one person shows you the bit of attention and you're like, okay, that's the one.
That's
You
it.
don't like, I think more people need to do the choosing. Like, let me choose somebody that aligns with
100%.
what I want rather than just like, oh, they like me. Ding, ding, ding. That's the one. That's usually how it goes. Someone shows interest and you
Mm-hmm.
think that's good enough when
Yeah.
it hardly is. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to be the ones choosing. Like, you
Hmm.
don't show up on a first date, on a date, and you're like, oh my God, do they like me? Are they going to like me? What do I need to do to get them to like me? It's like, we need to show up on these dates being the ones sort of investigating, enjoying ourselves, but a little bit being like, okay, like, he seems fun. Great. Like, you being the one investigating. And this goes for men and women. Like, go on these dates. Like,
Right.
you're trying to see, do I enjoy this person? Do I have a fun time with them? Do I want to see them again? Do I, versus like, I hope they reach out again, or I hope something happens, or like, it's like we have to kind of take charge of our dating lives. And I think because we don't do that as often, I don't see this as often. I think that's why dating gets so miserable
Hmm.
also,
Yeah.
because we're just kind of in the passenger seat hoping it's going in the right direction.
Trying to be chosen and doing everything to make that happen. And you have to realize there's some people in this world, you can show up as everything that you think they want you to be, and they're still not going to choose you. So why not just show up as who you are and find someone who wants that and who aligns with that?
Amen. Preach it. I love that. I love that. And again, that's how we get stuck in these situationships, is we're sitting, waiting, and hoping. When the person has shown you they don't want a commitment, like, you can see by
Yeah.
people's actions. And I think, like, so I was at the beach like a week ago. I was just sitting reading, and I saw these girls walk by, and
Mhm.
they were like, well, because I'm always eavesdropping. I'm sorry, but I'm always listening to people. I'm like, what are they talking about? What are they talking about?
Yeah.
And she walks by and she goes, well, he's just not good at commitment, or he's something to that degree. It's funny because it was similar to that post you posted about like the
Yeah.
commitment thing,
That
like
can commit to everything else.
everything else.
Yeah.
But she was like, I could see her reasoning. Well, he's just not really like into committing like long term, like, you know, or maybe he's just like, I forgot how she was. I could see her rationalizing his lack of
Hmm.
commitment. And I was like, I wanted to get up and be like, girl, there is only two scenarios. He's committing or he's not committing.
Or he's not. Yeah.
The reasons behind any of those, like the not, don't matter. It is he is not committing. There is no, well, maybe he's scared. If he's scared, that's your answer. If he doesn't want to commit, that's your answer. If he's too busy, that's your, like, the reason behind the non-committing doesn't matter. And then
not your problem.
It's not your, it's a goodbye, thank you very much, because it's not what I want. And it's like we get so caught up in the reason, the rationalizing, well, this is why he's not committing. Well, this is why, well, maybe he's just, you know, and again, I think men do this too. I'm speaking from my perspective, from a female perspective, but we come up with all these reasons, and we have to get so like committed and strong in our worth and who we are that when someone says, I don't want what you want, we say, thank you for telling me. And goodbye. Wish you the best. Mm-hmm. We're not pissed. We're not angry. We're like, thank you for giving me the information. We are definitely misaligned on this. And goodbye. Mm-hmm. But we don't do that. We stay. And then we rationalize, well, maybe I'll just give it a couple more months. Oh, but he's, you know, I even hear this with people who are even in, like, people who want to get married and they're in these long-term relationships and they come up with all these excuses of like, why they won't get married. Oh, but work. But look, he just ain't marrying you right now, and there's a reason. There's something deeper, right? All the excuses don't matter at the end of the day, you know. And it's like we get stuck in these, and we wait and we hope and we hold on. If you have hope in a relationship, it's already not a good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the hope needs to be based on something that's happening right now in front of you. Like the intention is there. Their character is there. They have expressed commitment. You can't hope for something that you're not seeing.
Yes.
As an actual possibility based on the person's actions. And I do think a lot of people, they try to rationalize their way out of it. And that's a safety mechanism. Mm-hmm. They're like, if I can rationalize this, then I can make it make sense for me. And then I can work with that. And I always say, if you have to put a PR spin on somebody's behaviors and try to become a public relations expert and like, oh, well, actually, maybe he's this way or he's that way. You're trying to clean up his messes or her messes. Just run. Mm-hmm. That's your answer right there. If you have to put a PR spin because you're not confident to say how that person is showing up in your life as a healthy person, then you just need to get out of there.
Yeah. And that's what I say. It's like we have to be so confident in what we want and what we're looking for. And if you want a committed relationship, well, then stop staying in things that are anything less than that. You know, and then
some people will say, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Will say that like the other person did tell them that this is something they want. And those are the harder situationships.
Yeah, let's talk about those.
Because the other person might actually say, yeah, I do see a future with you. Oh, I do want this with you. But you have to address if their actions are lining up with their words. Because they can say that all day, but what intentional steps are they making to make that happen? As soon as you start to see inconsistent behaviors, they're talking. If their words are not lining up, they're just talking. Because you need to see words and actions lining up for this to actually be a thing.
100%. And yeah, like you said, I think those are the worst ones because I think you hang on to what they're saying. You hang on to the hope, again, the hope of what their words are saying, but not of their actions.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I will stand on this hill forever is like actions will always speak more to me than your words.
Like, but sometimes their actions are like, oh, let's cuddle. Let's do this. Let's kiss. Let's make out. Let's go, whatever. I don't know. Let's go. Let me introduce you to one of my friends that I don't actually care about, just to make you think that you are part of my life now. So sometimes their actions will confuse you, and that's what makes it really hard. But it's like you have to look at consistency over time as the formula. Consistency and intentionality over time. As soon as this starts to feel icky, sticky, and it's like, but that's not what he said yesterday. That's not what she said yesterday. Things are starting to sound like they're not consistent. That's when you can kind of gauge.
Yeah. And I think you make a good point. Like sometimes the actions are confusing and they are saying, oh, you want to be in a relationship. But I think this is where communication comes in and where most people don't want to have these conversations. They don't want to bring these things up because they are hard and they suck to bring up these awkward conversations. But
Yes.
that's how you get yourself out of these things, right? If you're acting like a boyfriend, but are we in that situation, And
Mm-hmm.
it's like this is where communication comes in. I think there's I see these questions asked a lot like on, like ask a therapist or ask a dating coach, And they always ask, "Well, how do I have this conversation? How do I bring this
Yeah.
up? Or how do I get them to commit? Or how do I?" And it's like you don't get anyone to do anything. You simply
Mm-hmm.
have you bring up the topic and you say, "This is what I want. Hey, we've been dating for 3 to 4 months. I'm not sure where we stand, but I want to let you know for me to move forward, I am looking for something more serious and committed.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? Or where do you stand on that?" Versus
Exactly.
asking someone, I think this is where people trip up. They ask them, "Well, where are we?" Well, no,
What
you
are
are,
we?
yeah, you are part of the equation. You get to state
Mm-hmm.
not what are we, right? It's this
Right.
is what I want. This is what I'm looking for something committed. And we have to get real about what we actually want. Because I think sometimes we're
Right.
scared to say what we actually want. Well, if I say we're committed and he's not ready for that, then he'll leave. Well, then he wasn't right
Mm-hmm.
for you. And it's
Absolutely.
like, how do we get to that point where it's like we can show up and say, this is what I'm looking for? And mind you, let's not do this on date 3. I'm talking about like you're a couple months in, you're kind of unsure where this is going. He's treating you like a girlfriend. All the actions are lining up, his words are lining, but you still have zero clue necessarily verbally of like what this is. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like having that conversation and bringing up what is it that you actually want in the relationship. And I think being able to
Yeah.
present that to somebody and say, this is what I'm looking for. Like, where do you stand? And offering them the floor at that point, I think will
Mm-hmm.
will will negate a lot of the issues and a lot of the confusion.
Yes.
But it is shocking how many people don't have that conversation.
Yes. They just go based on what it feels like. Everyone's operating, oh, this feels good. Let's just keep it here for now,
Mhm.
knowing they want something more, even convincing themselves
Mhm.
that it is something more. Like,
Mhm.
oh, we had a really great day yesterday. I really think that's my man, my man, my man.
Mhm.
Did he tell you he's your man? Did you guys have the conversation yet? Like just the same way that you said it needs to be said was perfect.
Yeah.
Like, this is where I see from my life. This is what I'm looking for. And if not, then we can't move
Yeah.
forward. And I think a lot of people, I always say, I hate the what are we question. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
don't ask it. Don't. I'm
Don't
same.
ask
Same.
it.
I'm like,
Yes.
no.
You don't need to ask that question because at that point, if you're having to ask, what are we? First of all, you're not showing confidence in what it is that you want. You're letting the other person drive the show. And that's how you know you're already down bad. If you're letting the other person drive a
100%.
show of a relationship that you are a part of,
Mhm.
you have to be upfront about what you want and make it clear.
Yeah, 100%. Like you want to be this high value woman. Well, you got to start acting like it. Like, because it's like,
Yeah.
don't like in a way, like my time is precious and this is what I'm looking
Mhm.
for. But men respect that. Like, I think what women don't
Yeah.
recognize is men respect that. Like, yeah, this is kind of what I want. And if this is not what you want, I am so good in who I am and what I bring and all of that, that like I'm good to walk away. And
Mhm.
that is the energy we all should be walking into this dating scene with. Because
Yes.
it's like, that is what prevents you from getting stuck in these things that you don't even want to be in to begin with. You're like, I don't want to be 6 months down the road and still have no idea what we are.
Mhm.
And it also, like, in a way, it pushes people to kind of step up a little bit. Like, and this goes for guys too. Like, sometimes, look, women can be very non-committal also. Like this, I don't want to put this on men only, but women can act this
Mhm.
way as well. And it's like, it's the same thing goes for guys. Like, you can have this conversation, saying,
Yeah.
hey, like, in order for me to move forward, I need a commitment. I need more than what we're doing. I'm enjoying what we're doing. I'm loving getting to know you, and this is really fun, you know.
Mhm.
But it's like
Yeah.
guys can simply ask this, can have the same conversation and say, where do you
Mhm.
stand? How do you feel about this?
Yes. And then listen to their response. Do not play yourself. Like,
Yes.
you will hear if they start to be vague, get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
If they start to say we're going with the flow, get out of there. If they say we'll cross that bridge when we get there, get out of there. If they say things like, why are you trying to ruin what we have? I like what we have. We're in a good place. Don't you think we're in a good place? Those are your signs. When people can't be concrete and they're being very vague, that's your sign.
100%. Like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Well, this is the bridge and I'm there. I'm on it, bro. I don't know where you're at, but see, I'm looking at it. Like,
this is the bridge.
I will cross it one way or another. Either you're coming with me or I'm crossing it and leaving you on this side, you know?
Yes.
And it's like, that's the confidence I want everyone to have. And it's not cocky by all means. It's simply like, I know what I want. And it's like we have to be willing to stand on that.
Yes. Just stand on it. Yes. There are people in this world that do exist.
Yes.
That will meet the requirements that you have, that do want to be committed, that will show up as what you want and need. But you have to let go of the ones that don't. And you have to stop operating in scarcity and thinking, oh my gosh, this might be all I can get. Let me just latch onto it.
Yeah.
You have to trust that you can have more than that and you are worthy of more than that.
Yeah. And the quicker we get to that point, the quicker we're moving on from these, right? You're finding that someone doesn't want commitment. Great. Thank you. Let me make space for someone who actually does. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, let's moving on to the next, you know, and you're not stuck in this cycle of never really having what you want. And you know what? And this is the hard truth. That might mean that you may be single a lot longer than you want to be. And I think that that's a hard truth for people to swallow.
Right. Yeah. People don't want to be single. And there's this whole, I don't know, fantasy that people have that relationships are better. Relationships are great for sure. But your singleness does not take away from your worthiness. And singleness can be fun. You can have a great time. But if you find that you're in your singleness and you are not enjoying it, you're not enjoying spending time with yourself, all you see is, I want a relationship, that's how you know you're probably not in a place to be dating anyway, because you're going to be going on scarcity. You're going to be going on desperation. If you can find a way to enjoy your aloneness, your singleness, and be empowered in that, then you'll see that a relationship is just a healthy addition to what you already have going on. It is not the end all be all.
Yeah, some great advice. And I think that's great advice. And I think a way for us to get comfortable in that is to start meeting our own needs. Because I think oftentimes we find that we think a relationship is going to fill all of our needs that we have, whether it's a need for novelty, a need for going out and doing things, or a need for companionship, or there's all these needs that we have. And a relationship is not the only way we can fulfill those. So I think when we can get really clear about what it is that we actually feel like we need, you know, and then find ways, how can I actually fill these needs different ways, right? Maybe it's a matter of you going out and trying new things, right? Maybe it's like book that, pottery class that you've always wanted to take that you thought would be so cute to go with somebody, do that on your own, or like find things to do that bring joy on your own. And get it and and I think the more repetition you have with that, the more you can do those type of things. Join some sort of club, join a sport, play volleyball. I don't know. Like there's so many things you can get into. And I think that's why we get to a point where we so desperately want a partner, is because we're not getting any of those needs met. And we think, because obviously what we see online, that those needs are all going to be met by a partner. And then when we do meet someone, we cling on.
Yes. Invest in other relationships too. We got to decenter romantic relationships. Other relationships can satisfy certain needs. Invest in your friendships. Invest in your familial relationships. Invest in other areas of your life. So that way romantic love is not, like I said before, the end all be all. It's just a cherry on top. It's just an addition to your confidence that you already have, your self-worth that you already have, all the amazing things that you have going for you. A romantic relationship should only add to that. It should not be your source of validation.
100%. 100%. And it changes how you date then. You actually enjoy dating a little bit more, I think, when you're not coming from that perspective of like, I need to fill voids. I need to fill some parts of me. And I think you become more confident. You become a more enjoyable person to be around when you're dating. Because you're not clinging onto this person. You're not clinging onto the hope of this potential relationship. And
Mhm.
I think that's why we get really frustrated in dating. So I think we put so much pressure on dating to fill all these voids and needs.
Mhm.
And then when they inevitably don't, because they won't, then we get even more disappointed.
Yes. And you become more attractive when you have your own
Mhm.
things going for yourself.
100%.
When you can have this aura of confidence because you just know your worth,
Mhm.
you are more attractive than someone who's sitting around waiting for someone to swoop in
Yep.
and be the love of their life. And now you just cling to them and you just only want to hang out with them. And
Yep.
you think they're the only person, you just want to be up under them all the time. You are a lot more attractive when you have something going for yourself.
Yeah. 100%. You look and feel more valuable in that way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and think about the roles reversed, right? If you dated a guy who didn't really have that much going on for himself, he worked, had a couple friends,
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have a ton of hobbies, wasn't really invested in anything outside of the relationship. And then you start dating this guy and you're like, oh my God, this is a lot. Like, he always wants to hang out. He always wants to be together. He like, go find a hobby. You know, it's like, when the roles reverse, you see that you're like, oh, actually, yeah, like they aren't as attractive. They aren't
Mm-hmm.
as, you know, and attraction isn't only looks. It's a whole package of things, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think there's so much of that can be developed in your singleness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and enjoy singlehood.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a beautiful space to be because then when you are locked in for with somebody for however many years, yes, you can still have a piece of you,
Mhm.
but it's never going to be the same as just you living for only you. So enjoy it while it's here, and that way you can start choosing other people for their values, their characters, their morals, their
Yes.
how they show up in this world, how kind they are, rather than just being chosen and trying to see how they can fit just because they chose you.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you. It's like you start looking at it from totally different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also more willing to walk away, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
when those values aren't met and you aren't aligned.
Mhm.
There's a part of you that, yeah, you're more willing to let it go because you're like, life's actually pretty good. Like, I don't
I don't
need
need this.
this. Like, I'd like to have it, you know. I think
Yeah.
having that where you're like, I'd like to have it, but it's not like defining who I am. It's not, you know, giving, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, it should feel like the cherry on top to the life you're already
Yeah.
living. It should be like, oh my God, I met this person, and it's like things are sweeter, things are just a little bit like more complete,
Mhm.
things are just a little bit better with them in my life.
Yes, and they're not taking away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of these unhealthy dynamics and situationships, you find that the relationship is taking away.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not able to show up as your authentic self.
Yeah.
You're not able to do the things you want to do because you need to be up under them all the time. You're afraid to lose them. So you abandon everything you have going on to be up under this person. So if you are noticing that it's taking away rather than adding, that is another surefire sign.
Mm-hmm. If you have to abandon yourself and your
Mhm.
values and what you stand for to be with this person, that is already also a telling sign. It's like
Mhm.
you should not have to abandon those things. Abandon your hobbies,
Right.
abandon yourself, abandon what makes you you just to maintain the relationship. Like, that's a tell sign.
Yeah. Yeah. And you might have to make room. You might have to shift some things a little bit, but not your entire world,
Yes.
your entire life, abandoning yourself
Hmm.
completely. That's just how you know that's not it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a difference between compromise and
Mhm.
self-abandonment. Those are very two distinct things. Self-abandonment is, I hold this value true to me, but I will basically be like, it doesn't really matter as much just so I can keep this person.
Mhm.
Compromises, okay, I could give into this if we maybe do this together, right? So you're compromising on maybe time spent together. Maybe you don't get your 7 nights a week by yourself or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
You figure out where the need is and you compromise, right? Those are
Mhm.
you know, time and things of that nature, not deep-seated values that make you who you are, that are beliefs that you've had. That when you start to self-abandon that and you start to abandon those things, like, that's when you know this is not for you. Because that's the worst abandonment.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And that's why it's good to have some non-negotiables. I say 3 to 5, but
Hmm.
5 is a good number where you're like, if they do not meet this, 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 and this, they do not qualify. I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, they meet the top 3. I can kind of waver on number 4 and 5. You can't waver. because number 4 and 5 are usually things that are just as important as numbers 1, 2, and 3, because you put them on your list, which means you want them. So why are you telling yourself that it's okay to not have that?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, you're not going to get everything out of one person. You might get 80% and then grow to love the other 20, but at least that other 20 is not like they have bad character, bad values, bad morals. Like, that's not what the other 20 is. The other 20 is like maybe they don't know how to do laundry. I don't know. But it's not like something that is core to how they show up in this world and their values and their character. So when you make your non-negotiables list, let it be things that are actually important to you and conducive to the health of a relationship. And that way, when they're not meeting them, you can easily be like, okay, they don't qualify. That's just not going to work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, 100%. And again, and that requires having kind of the harder conversations, right? You don't know a lot of these values unless you're actually, as you kind of, as the relationship progresses, right? This is not a date one conversation, but as you kind of get more into the even the dating stage, it's like you kind of have to start having some of these bigger conversations, you know?
And then with yourself as well. I think the first conversation needs to be with you. What do I want? You cannot show up in this dating world not knowing exactly what you want. And obviously there's room to jiggle a little bit of wiggle room, but not on the core values. Never.
100%. 100% agree. Yeah. Have that conversation with yourself and then weed people out based on that.
Yeah, it's easy. It's fun. It's fun to just.
Oh my God. And then the best part is when they weed themselves out, you're like, oh, I didn't even have to try on that one.
Exactly. Stop lying to yourself. Just go based on your list. Oh, they don't meet that. And when I say the list, I feel like I have to give examples because
I was going to ask you actually. I was like, can you give me like what? Because I think this is really important. Like, what would be like maybe even share your top 5 or like examples of what when we say values, what do we actually mean?
Okay. So some good ones would be obviously emotionally available, and you would have to know what that looks like too. Like, obviously work with someone on figuring out what emotionally available actually looks like. They're open to communication, they're consistent, they're honest, and you can see that they're able to express themselves and not have those walls up, and they're not playing games, and they're pretty consistent. So I would say emotionally available is one. I would say financially, what's a good word here? Intelligent, responsible, financially responsible.
Agree.
Let's use that word. That's a good one as well.
I think that's a great one. And just to differentiate that, because I think it's not about a number either. I think right. Financial. When you say if that's really important to you, like financially responsible is like, are they good with what they make, with whatever it is that they have, right? They may not be super successful and have millions of dollars or whatever, right? But it's like, are they actually responsible for what they have, and how do they steward what they have?
Absolutely.
I think is much more important than does he make $150,000 a year, right?
Yes. That's why I was so strategic about the word. I said responsible.
Smart.
There's not a number there. He doesn't have to be he or she does not have to be the most wealthy person in the world. They are smart. They know how to work with what they have. They're responsible with what they have. Yeah. I would say kind-hearted. I think that should be everybody.
I agree.
And everybody's top. Like, you can't pass up on a
kindness.
A kind person. Why do you want someone who's not kind? And kind means they treat everybody kindly, not just you when they want something. They are a kind-hearted person, and you see how that shows up in their character, in their day-to-day life. I don't know. Some other ones.
For some,
I'd say and stay in that ballpark.
Yeah.
Religious values.
I was just going to say religious values. Yeah.
And that's important to you.
I see this one. This one bothers me a little bit. I'm religious and like I'm Christian, and that's really important to me. And what I often find interesting is this is an area people, and I'm going to get judged for this, and that's okay, but people will compromise in this area a lot. Oh, yeah. They have a value. They're like, I want someone Christian, or I want someone that shares my faith or whatnot. And then they end up entertaining a lot of people that aren't. And
it's like, why do it?
And I'm just so bother? Like, I mean, look, I've done it in the past because it wasn't as important to me. So it's like, then I can't say it's a value. But when you make this list, like you put it on there, it really has to be something that's at the core of how you live your life, you know?
Yes.
And so I find this tends to be an area that gets a little bit, gets compromised, I think, frequently.
Yeah. And it's like, why even bother? Because at the end of the day, it's going to cause conflict.
Mhm.
The things you overlook in the beginning are just going to be the reasons for the turmoil and heartbreak in the end. So
100%.
why not go in knowing that like this is something I cannot waver on and
Mhm.
stop playing yourself,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
religious values, that's a good one as well. I'm
Mhm.
trying to think of like a five just to wrap it up.
And for
I
some
don't know.
people, it could be health related, right? So, like, maybe
Okay.
if you, for me, like, health is a big value in terms of like, I really value my health. It's not just about working out, but it's about like, I take responsibility for my body, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what I put in it. That's how I work out. That's,
Yeah.
I'm, and it's something that's kind of at the core of how I want to live my life. It's not just like a
Mm-hmm.
diet. It's not I work out 5 days a week. It's a for me, it's a more deep-seated value. So I could not be with someone who just didn't care about it. Like who was just like,
Yes. Okay.
I don't care. I don't go to the doctor. I never get blood work. I don't do any of this. To me, I'm like, that would be really, I don't know. I'm not trying to be your
Yeah.
doctor. Like it's like someone taking responsibility for their body and for their health.
And that's why it's good to know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like these five that we're giving out for everybody listening, it's not a concrete
Yep.
five that you don't have to take what we're saying. You have to know what's important to you. Some people choose even family values. I know some people
Family
who are
value.
not going to date somebody who is not cool with their family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's valid.
Mm-hmm.
But if family is not important to you, you don't have to put that on your list. But
100%.
know what is important to you and do not waver on a single one of them.
Yes. I think that's this is where everyone should start. Have this
Mm-hmm.
conversation, figure out what your top let's say 3 to 5, maybe you don't get to 5, but you have like your top 3. These are like I
Like,
will
yeah.
not waver on these things. And then
Mm-hmm.
as you go out into the world and you're dating, you're meeting people, you have to get more comfortable saying no to some people.
Mm-hmm.
You seem
Yeah.
great. You might be the hottest thing I've ever seen, but you might be Jewish. And I'm like, great.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
It's not going to work
It
for
ain't
me.
gonna work
Yeah,
for me.
exactly.
And
Mhm.
I think you become more comfortable saying no
Absolutely.
the more you do it.
Stop fooling yourself. I just keep saying that. Stop fooling yourself. You know you don't want that. Stop
Yes.
fooling
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
And in the end, like you by staying in something that is so misaligned and is not aligned with your values, not aligned with who you really are, it's
Mhm.
only going to be detrimental in the end. And you're going to be the one that's hurt. And unfortunately, you cannot blame the other person. You cannot get into a situationship where you've been in, could be 6 months, a year, and you've never brought up the topic. You've allowed it to continue in your life. You cannot play the victim in this situation. And I'm just going to put that out there because you have made a choice. And
Mhm.
so know that when when I put myself in something like this, it's like I am part of the equation and I have agency to stay or to go. And if I stay, it's a choice at the end of the day, and it's
Mhm.
probably not going to be a good choice for you in the long run. But know that you have agency, know that you have the ability to stand up for what it is you really want,
Mhm.
and walk away from what isn't.
Yeah. And accept people as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do not go into something thinking you can mold them and be like, well, we can tweak that thing. I can make him Christian or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's your value. Don't think you can tweak someone else. Accept them as they are. And if they don't meet the values, they don't align, then you just go.
You have
Like,
your
I
answer.
think it's simple as that. Just go.
You take your
Yeah, stop
dignity
trying to.
and then you walk.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. And if you're going to accept those things, then you just accept it and be silent. Stop complaining about it. Stop
Mhm.
whining about it. Stop telling them that they need to be this, this, and this for you. They showed you they don't have the capacity nor desire, and you still chose them. So
Yes.
stop complaining. If that's what you want, go ahead. Stop
100%.
whining.
100%. It's about taking accountability for our decisions. And we have to
Mhm.
start getting to that point. Whether we stay, whether we go, we have to be accountable to the decisions that we make. And again, it's like if you choose someone as they are, then yeah, you can't hope to change them or try to change them. If you stay in
Mhm.
something that deep down you're like, I actually want more, then again, those are all choices. And it's like we just have to start being more accountable to
Mhm.
what we are actually choosing. Because I think once we start doing that, we'll start choosing differently.
Absolutely. And then let's add values commitment to the list as well. Like, since we're talking about situationships, if you know that's something you want, values commitment. That
Mm-hmm.
can't be something you skate on by. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like if that's something that you're really looking for, if you're like, I want to get married, like I'm looking for a life partner and someone's like, yeah, if they say go with the flow at that point, girl, no, it's a no,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Because they don't value the same things that you do. So,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, this was such a good conversation. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ibbie, for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. It was great.
Yeah. So if someone wants to work with you, where would they find you? How do they get in touch with you?
Okay, yeah. First, easily is TikTok and Instagram at Dr. Ibbie Aro. That's dr.ibbiearo. And then all my links are there. But if you want to go straight to the website, it's auroraloverelationships.com.
Amazing. And we'll definitely include all that in the show notes so you guys can check that out later.
Okay.
But yes, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I think this was a valuable conversation. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.